All right, we got Jake Salazar here. We're just going to jump right into it. I want to say it's the hashtag I'm from Denver podcast, but it's really the Hi, It's Larry podcast.
Right. And, we did some recording in Vegas recently, which, we're kind of testing the waters, making sure that everything worked. And now we are official back in Denver.
But it wasn't the official setup here at Out the Box where Jake got to walk around and see all the toys they grew up with. But it's funny because Jake was like, how do I do this? And we've had enough conversations at your house, Larry, where I was like, well, you've already done it.
Right. If you watch Joe Rogan, those are just basically people having a conversation. And you're such a great conversationalist anyway. And you're easygoing guy.
Hey, I'll take the compliments.
Right, for sure. Well, and the thing is, what's ironic is that, you used to listen to me on the radio, and now we're on a podcast together because you're such a brilliant businessman that you surpassed me, and then you became a part of the. To be honest,
you belong in this store for me, man. This is part of my show.
Exactly.
I was playing with some of these toys when I was listening to you on the radio,
for sure. But no. Like, to be honest, you have done well for yourself, and you I think when we first met, you kind of described yourself as. You were a jock in school, but you were also smart. And so you did your homework, and now look at you now. You're kind of a businessman.
And he's also a Denver native because I'm from Denver. We were at Rare, and so I'm walking around. And
what is Rare? Tell people what Rare is.
The Rare Steak Fest. It's Denver Civic Park. Where
for sure.
It's a bunch of different restaurants.
It's like all the best steakhouses in town, kind of all competing. To see who has kind of the best steaks, and then I think there's some other awards like the best whiskeys, best rums.
Right,
I was there. I think we were there.
Product. Well, no,
we were drinking a lot of YOLO rum.
No, exactly. So that's how I found Jake, and he goes, hey, he sees me walking around the I'm from Denver mic interview. He goes, hey. Where's Larry Ulibarri? And
I was there.
And you were actually there. I was like, well, he's over at the YOLO Rum Tent. And then we started talking. I was like, hey, I just want to interview you. And I'm talking to people around here. And then you happen to have HipShots, your energy drink, which was there as well. So it just all serendipitous.
Yes, it was very natural how we all met. And it's just cool to meet you. And we've already been at your house. And which, by the way,
met your wife, met your kids, you met our wives.
He happens to have a lake in his backyard. Yeah. So he lives lake life here in Colorado, which is crazy. And what's even more crazy is like when you were telling me about your lake house, I was, when I went to your neighborhood, I was like, I don't see a lake. And I was just in a neighborhood, right? And so we get in your house, hidden. Go in the backyard, and there's like, how many houses around that lake?
It's 30, is it 32 or 34 houses?
It is so cool. Yeah. It is this hidden gem in the middle of, is that Denver still?
It is. It's actually like on the southern, westernest tip. So literally like across Sheridan, you're in Lakewood.
And you can't get in this neighborhood until somebody dies and sells their house.
Oh my God.
Yeah, two ways to get a house in this neighborhood. Somebody goes broke or somebody dies.
For sure. Yeah. So you have to go around and sniff out the finances of those neighbors. But it is really cool.
But in order to get
start going through their trash. Like,
right. I'm all insulin.
How's that bank statement?
Somebody's not doing well.
But in order to get that house, the man's got a history. And one of the things when we were at Rare, he goes, we started talking about Denver, and I think you did have a few YOLOs at that point because you're all, I'm fifth generation. And so like even saved his number in my phone as fifth gen. But your family has a history even in the business in Colorado.
Yeah, politics, business. We've been around, like you said, for a long time, fifth generation. So we had from coal miners, then we were politicians, a little bit of crooked politicians in Louisville. I think my great uncle was like one of the only mayors to ever get like ousted for corruption. I don't know the whole story. The family doesn't really talk about it. It's actually salt of the earth family. The rest of the family is like teachers, firemen.
We all have a crooked politician in our family.
Right?
Or cousin. Christian cousin.
Yes, they were there were coal miners, they were bootleggers, they were politicians, teachers. It's a great, kind of old school Italian family, which is very typical from Louisville. Louisville was kind of founded on the settling Italians coming across the United States.
Now, you said that your dad was a businessman, and he kind of, like, you worked for him growing up? Is that how you learned about being in business?
Yeah, a little bit. I worked. He never really taught me business. I more or less just worked in his warehouses.
Do this,
when I was like 12 years old, I had to get my first job. And so, me and a buddy of mine would go, they'd make us load all the boxes in the semi-trucks. So during the summertime, it's like if it's 100 degrees outside, it's 120 degrees in one of these trucks. And, unlike a lot of companies that just kind of roll them in and put in the forklifts and drop them, you actually have to take every box off. And these are paper products. So the boxes are like 50 pounds and you stack them from floor to ceiling.
Damn.
That way you can get more freight across.
That's called a work ethic, folks. Yeah. That's how you build a work ethic. Well, and it's like it's not easy working for your dad because I grew up working in my dad's jewelry business.
Yeah.
And so there's added pressure because, your dad and you kind of sometimes can have like a little bit of this relationship and then it's weird because he's your boss. And so, my dad would be apt to throw things at me.
Yeah.
And he worked in a jewelry store. So like that meant like hammers and files. So I became an amazing
Whoa, you were
dodger.
getting like weapons, man.
Oh no, dude! No, for sure, dude. Like I was like Neo before Neo was Neo. I was like, dodge
my dad was like belt, hose, switch.
Oh no, dude.
Spatula,
same way. Whatever was near.
Yeah.
My mom, we had this pencil sharpener that would just make pencils so sharp at the house. And I remember saying something to my mom, and she's all, "Gosh darn it!" And she threw this thing across the room, and it was like a movie. He goes, hits my thigh, and goes,
like, oh,
yeah. Social services.
I think that hurts.
Lead poisoning.
Yeah, I'm in shock right now. This fucking pencil stuck in my leg.
Did she feel bad or no?
Oh, I don't. She threw the pencil. She was mad, so I don't think she was exactly calm.
That's hilarious.
You're
not a good dodger.
Did I just throw a pencil into my kid's leg? Were you wearing shorts?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
One of those things.
That's our generation. We all got things thrown at us.
Yeah. Well, and
when you were allowed to hit your kid.
Yeah.
Well,
now it's
growing
like
up,
talk things out. Do you know why I'm upset with you right now?
Do you know why I want to throw a pencil in your leg?
When I was a kid, pencils got thrown.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you about why I'm not throwing this pencil. It has something to do with jail.
Well, we're talking about kids and being kids, but it's like, what'd you think out the box when you came in?
I
here?
mean, this
like,
place is incredible. Yeah. I mean, this is it's like a walk through childhood. I mean, there isn't anything in here, like any toy in here that I don't see any Barbies in here.
Right.
So, anything from like, the Transformers, like the original Transformers, Mask, all the old original vintage video games.
Yeah, we all go through
Star Wars
when we come in here. And it's kind of like it's never ending. You said you're like, I thought I'd get bored looking at this place, but everywhere I look, there's something to look at.
It's like eye candy, man. It's like going to an art gallery, man. You could sit in here for a minute.
I could spend a lot of money in here. And Christmas is coming up.
Yeah, right.
So if you're all good.
Well, it's like that. It's like the thing that was like, okay, I buy these toys, but I can't play with them because they have to stay in their package.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Right, for sure.
I'm playing with it.
No, for sure. And it's kind of like there's toys in here that I know nothing about that I still want. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's really cool.
Right. I remember I wanted that and I didn't get it for Christmas.
Oh no, for
now
sure.
I really want it.
Or more so, like they have a toy that you did have in childhood and it's behind glass and then you can actually hold it. And
dude,
you're like,
that guy right there. That was
this one.
I definitely had one of those guys.
Yeah,
those little monsters.
Yeah, for sure. These are definitely not for sale. These are like collectors. I kind of think they're rare.
I bet.
Yeah. This one actually, they have a replica
My Pet
of this.
Monster. That's what it is.
There it is.
I had one. Sitting on my bed.
So you're looking at that right now. You're gonna leave here with that. You already know. Well, we here's what's funny is Jake, you didn't know what to expect. You're like, I don't know what to do with the podcast. I was like, oh my god,
this is already it.
You're already.
I think we're doing it.
And then I even the second time we hung out, I was like, you guys need to do a podcast together. And then we launched Hi as Larry podcast on the I'm from Denver network. And I kind of want to talk about you because we're playing on words HIGH.
I was worried because I thought the camera would add 20 pounds.
No, everyone's looking at the toys behind you. You're okay. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. You get used to seeing yourself after a while. Then it's second nature.
I got that filter on.
Right, no, you're never going to be happy. Like every time I'm like, but it's like when you answer your phone and it's on, the camera's on you and you didn't expect it.
Yeah.
Turn your camera on, y'all. Who's that heinous? Oh, that's me. Yeah.
I've never watched myself talk before, so it's gonna be new.
Well, we got to play on the words for HIGH, but you have a history within that space, and I think we should talk about that because you're kind of a legend in that sense for what you've done.
Because people, that don't know this, like there's a lot of people that were instrumental in you being able to smoke legally. And there was a lot of people that did a lot of work beforehand to make that happen and to give you the quality of products that you now enjoy. And he's one of those guys.
Yeah. How did you get into that and what was your role?
It was kind of a long time coming. I'm from Colorado. I was aware when I was in college, the original legislation, the Constitutional Amendment 20 was passed. And that ultimately cleared the way to make it a right for people in the state of Colorado to be able to possess cannabis and to use cannabis. That was where the original caregiver laws came from. The thing is, it got a little bit of press, but people, didn't really understand it. So by the time 2008 came around, Obama came into the White House, and his attorney general had issued the Ogden Memorandum. And ultimately what that said was that they weren't going to prosecute petty marijuana crimes anymore. They weren't going to, pursue a whole lot of marijuana. And then people kind of started looking at the law in Colorado. There was one in California at that point that had actually come in a little bit earlier in 1996, but it wasn't a constitutional right. It was just was it a proclamation or a law that it was?
See, I don't even know half that's a proclamation.
Right. But it was not as strong per se as Colorado's law. So a lot of people started looking at that. And so you look at the marijuana registry back then, right? There was like 1,200 people registered for medical cannabis in Colorado.
That was it?
There were like 2 places you could get this stuff at, right? And then there were, a few caregivers that were very discreet under not large-scale cultivation operations.
Because as a caregiver, you could take care of a handful of people, right?
Exactly.
Like they came to you and
they changed those laws around. But back then it was like, you get 6 plants per patient.
Yeah.
You would go into the dispensary. They would ultimately kind of give you the patients. Then you would hang these pieces of paper on your wall in your grow. Patient. So if a cop came in there, you could be like, no, this is legal. And the cop would have no idea what you're doing. So we're probably going to get arrested anyway. But at least you'd have something to fall back on with your lawyer. And that's how, the caregiver laws worked. And in 2008, that changed. The Ogden Memorandum changed everything. And that was when, the growers kind of started coming out from underground and they got a little
no pun intended.
Yeah, they got more organized. And ultimately that's where the lobbies, set in. So Marijuana Industry Group, the MIG in Colorado, was a big push in that. And ultimately it was kind of pulling resources from the growers to be able to lobby for the commercialization of medical cannabis.
So before that, it was just everybody was still getting from their guy.
Yeah. I mean, there were 2 dispensaries, and you could be a patient,
right? And
you could go to the dispensaries. You were gonna be paying a little bit more back then. The wholesale price for a pound of marijuana back then was $4,300. It cost you less than $500 to grow it. Oh wow! So the margins were insane. That
means those 2 locations were killing it.
Yeah, I mean they were pumping a lot, and then came like the doctors that were starting to sign the red cards, right? So you had a
we remember about that.
Yeah.
We went to go get our red cards.
We're not talking. Oh
yeah, we are. No, you don't want to talk about that. It's funny because we went to this place and it was a dispensary, and they had a doctor there that you could go and he would see you in this room. And so I went in and I was the whole time thinking, is this guy in on this?
Because it wasn't sketchy.
They were in on it.
Yeah, but I didn't know to what level.
A lot of times the doctors were doctors that were older, that were like about to be out of practice,
right?
That didn't care if they got in trouble.
Sure.
And so there was actually one doctor that had signed off on like 50% of all the patients in Colorado at one point. Anyway, but when they were
wait, I got to finish the story really quick.
Go ahead.
Because he doesn't want me to.
No. Go ahead.
All right, hold on. So we go to this place, and I go in. I see the doctor, and I'm like, he's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm all, "My back hurts," and like waiting for him to like
chronic pain,
right? And he goes, "Okay, how often?" And I'm all,
"Every day."
Yeah, sure. And then so it was weird, and then I did that, and then I left, and I had my little piece of paper
because it was nerve wracking because you're in there anyway.
So wait a minute, he went in next. And then he comes.
See, I don't like you telling the story because you say it all wrong.
So then he comes out and sits next to me and he goes, "Did the doctor make you take his shirt off?"
I didn't take the shirt off. I didn't take the shirt off. I said,
no.
Lift the shirt up.
I go, okay. What if I go, no? And he goes, He goes, "Did he make you bend over?" And I was like, no.
See, that Larry just takes it to a degree. All he did was he made me stop. We're done. All he did is lift it and say, "Did you have scoliosis?" And I did have scoliosis.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I really do. And I was like, it's right there.
So you actually like went in with like a legitimate ailment.
But because I thought I had to and I was nervous. But anyway, we're done. It's over.
So
it was
was
no
funny.
bending over or any of that.
He was a gay doctor. Anyway, so
he was just making sure there was really an S in your spine.
Yeah,
can
For
you
real.
just appreciate when somebody pays you a compliment, like an old weird dick doctor at a dispensary?
Yeah, one who was already going to be on the outs anyway.
Anyway, so get back to your story. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, please hurry up. Let's not dwell on this.
When somebody comes, when your buddy comes,
we're
and
done.
Says,
We're done.
Okay, fine.
So yeah, but the doctors, that's what was happening. Is,
Right.
So, you know, and that was because the original doctors that would ultimately sign off on this stuff, they were
Pervs.
less worried.
Oh, now it's funny.
They were less worried about possibly losing their licenses because, you know, they either had something against their license already, like malpractice or something, or, you know, it just was what it was. And they were getting older.
You can drink
But
your
ultimately,
drink wherever it is.
oh yeah. From 2000, it was from about
It's over there, I
2008
think.
until about 2010. You know, you saw it was like 10 to the 10th power of people signing up for the program. So you went from 1,200 patients to like 140,000.
So that was the
Like,
right.
overnight.
Everybody was like, okay, that was the new thing.
Well,
Everybody's
ultimately,
like, go
they
get a red
came
card.
out and they protected it with HIPAA laws. Ultimately, meaning that if you went onto the registry and any of your information was shared, you were still protected by the same laws that protect you right now.
Right.
By, you know, if people are going to get your medical records, then you're ultimately protected, you know, under the same laws. And that, you know, a lot of people got scared, right? So you have your I guess your conspiracy theorists that were like, dude, government's just trying
Now
to
they
find out
know.
who's smoking
Yeah,
weed.
yeah,
Be like,
right,
bro, they don't care about the guys smoking weed.
Yeah.
They care about the guys distributing the weed.
Right.
They care about the guys like me.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not going to bust down your
Yeah,
door
yeah,
for your
Wait, so
one
yeah,
joint.
what was your role in all that?
So, I mean, at the very beginning, I was just a grower. And so we had what really sprung me in was a disagreement with one of our dispensaries that we were working with, which shall remain nameless. Because I actually do like the person to this day, and I think, you know, ultimately they do some good in the community still. But there were two, like I said, a couple dispensaries, and we had our patients from both of them. And they were basically saying if we didn't take our wholesale prices down, that they were going to pull our cards, our patient cards from us. And I was like, okay, well, you're kind of threatening,
that's
my
not
side
cool.
hustle right now. Cause I had a Sotheby's real estate and then Devonshire real estate back then. So I was in the real estate game. This was mainly a side hustle that I had invested in. And so basically, you know, somebody was threatening me. I don't really take well to threats.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you know, what does it take to open a dispensary in Boulder? Cause if this person has one, then
How hard could it be?
It can't be that hard.
Right.
And I'm from Boulder.
Right, because it's all paperwork
Yeah.
and hoops.
And it turns out, you know, because the threat was they'll never let you open a dispensary in Boulder. And this is before
2009?
No, this is like 2008.
2008.
And so I'm like, well, there are no laws around that. And all I needed was a retail license and a lease.
Wow.
And so that was before the Marijuana Enforcement Division. It was before House Bill 1284 and Senate Bill 109.
Easy? It was that easy?
That was it. So I opened a dispensary and I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell wholesale prices, retail.
Wow.
And so I'm going to, you guys are charging $65 an eighth. I'm going to bring it back down to 50,
Wow.
45. I might even just have a free day.
Wow.
Just because you guys were depending on us
for sure.
to supply you. I'm not going to supply you anymore. I'm going to supply my own store.
Well, and the truth be told is not anybody just can grow it right and do it good. And you've done all the work in that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually have strains where you have a copyright on them.
Well, yeah, we
Because that was the part of the
can't,
growing.
you can't really copyright it, but what you can, there's certain levels that you can take it to because it's still federally illegal. So you can't copyright, can't trademark, can't patent it. What you can ultimately do is back up the genetics in a biolab.
Oh, nice.
And you can also, you know, like what we did was we took it through the CU Genomic Research Program, the CU Cannabis Genomic Research Program, and we sponsored the grants to ultimately, you know, fund the research at the university.
So now you have dino DNA.
Exactly.
But wait, you had to learn that though, right? I mean, because you don't just get in 2008 and know how to grow, right? Like, and get to that level of like where you're gonna give into a school. To
Yeah, I mean, like on the business, on that side of it, you know, the growing side, the kind of science side, it, you know, it's kind of like a mixture of like common sense with like a little bit of like a little bit of moxie, right? What we saw was, you know, we're buying all these seeds from Amsterdam, right? And they would come and you buy them from Attitude Seed Bank, which is hilarious, right? Which is out of the UK. And so all these growers, you know, in the UK or not in the UK, but in Europe, were ultimately making these seeds. And they would ship them to the United States illegally. And so they would come in like a CD case. And so you'd be like Metallica, right? And you'd be like, oh, I didn't order Metallica. So you'd be like, oh, that's your seeds. And so you remember how the old CD cases would work?
Yeah. They were super thick because it was the back spine.
Right. And so you remember
thick.
But I don't know if you ever dissected one, but if you opened it up and then you could actually pull that back part. Back part where the CD sat, you could pull that out.
Yeah.
And
make a little box.
Even the hinge on the corner there, that you could undo as well. And that's where they would put the seeds.
Oh, wow.
So the seed would be sitting in that hinge. And you can, 8 marijuana seeds is very small.
Sure.
Easy. And so, they send, that's how your seeds would come.
Wow.
And so I'm thinking like, well, why doesn't this come from the United States? They're shipping this from overseas. This is a big, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
Well, who's making them?
Yeah.
Why are they making them? Where are they making them? Who are they? And it turns out like all these people annually back then were showing up to the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam.
Right.
All the growers, right? And there's this house called the Get Lucky. And it's a really neat house in Amsterdam, like one of those kind of 5-level houses going up off the canal.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what they would do is it would say you'd have to kind of an invite-only situation. So you kind of had to know somebody to get in there. You'd walk into this house, and there's this dude. I won't say his name, but he's sitting down kind of on this little bar, and it's kind of like a drug buffet. Like, what would you like? And it's like, first of all, I want to go meet a bunch of strangers, so I don't think I should be all fucked up on that, whatever that is.
Right.
And so we go up, and then, but you'd meet.
But I'll be back after.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be back in 2 hours. Don't sell all that. You're like, dude, you're in Amsterdam. We can get more. But no, then it was like, you get upstairs, and it was like all the best breeders in the world. Anything from Arion, Franco, the guys from Greenhouse, guys from DNA. I mean, it was everybody. And they were essentially turning in their strains, kind of like, the Cannabis Cup, only the way they were doing it in Amsterdam was a lot different than the way that it ultimately started getting done in the United States.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the best breeders in the world turning around and smoking each other's stuff, kind of talking about, how they were bringing the plants up and everything. And, to ultimately make a really good new strain of cannabis, a nice new hybrid, it took a lot of work.
It sounds like when, in a movie, when all the powerful leaders of the world gather under one roof, right? It's a secret meeting.
It really is, man. I mean, it was, at least back then.
Mm-hmm.
So what year is this that you're out there?
Oh man! So the first time I got invited to the Get Lucky would have been in 2010.
So is that just because you were doing good at what you were doing?
I made really good friends with the cultivation editor of High Times, Nico Escondido, and a guy named Matt Stang, who are also, Matt's still with High Times. Nico kind of does his own thing. I think he still writes for High Times a little bit, but ultimately got the invite to Amsterdam from him. I wouldn't have even shown up if I hadn't gotten the invite. Yeah. And so first year we wanted to enter the Cannabis Cup, but I was like, man, mainly I just want to meet everybody.
Yeah.
And so just went over there to just understand, what it was.
Because
you're so new.
Check it out.
Well, and ultimately just kind of respect the game, right?
Yeah.
Just, get to know who the players are, take notes.
Yeah.
Go to all the fun parties and but ultimately kind of come back with a mental Rolodex of like who I need to be talking to for the next year.
Yeah.
Well, that's like with my Amsterdam experience, I'm like, I've been longing for that. Like that's for me. The day where you can go to a place in Denver, buy a drink, get your herb, and just that's what I did in Amsterdam for the first time. I bought a beer, picked my herb, sat at a table, and everybody else had a different herb, and you just talk to everybody. You tried, exchange joints. It's so cool.
City council needs to get its shit together.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
I mean, it's ridiculous that this program has been in swing for over 10 years. And there's not that.
Well, right. Especially because all these other states, as they legalize it, we're losing business, we're losing tourists.
It's ridiculous, right?
We could have been the capital of.
We could have been the Amsterdam of
right.
Yeah.
And it's like we tried to. So we brought the Cannabis Cup, the International Cannabis Cup here
for real
2 years in a row.
Yeah. No, it was insane.
So that same thing.
They sold 65,000 tickets,
and
and 250,000 people showed up.
It was insane.
You want to talk about good for Denver? I mean, listen, you could argue that there were some degenerates that probably came along with that group, but there was also a lot of people that spent a lot of money.
There's degenerates at Broncos games too, man.
Hey, degenerates got to eat.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I see an awful lot of Raiders fans every now and then.
Exactly.
Why you got to bring that up?
So then what happens? So you go to Amsterdam, you make these right connections, and
so
what's the name of your business at this point?
MMJ America.
MMJ America.
So yeah, we incorporated MMJ America back in 2009 officially. And like again, the idea here was, to meet the breeders. Right? How are they doing this? How I need to start obviously studying up on cross pollination and how all that works. So you asked, it was like a progression, right? This is kind of, what do I need to learn? Who do I need to talk to about it? And what do I need to be saying? What are the right questions to ask?
It's like when I meet straight people, I meet the breeders.
Yeah. It's not like that.
That joke is brought to you by.
Jesus.
Yes, it is, Wiggins, because if you get the boy plant by the girl plant, they actually pollinate and then they're breeding.
Yeah, but they don't always make a good offspring.
Right.
It's true with plants too. And that's what a lot of these breeders back then was, it took a lot to do the pheno hunting and everything. So once you actually bred it, seeded it out, then you had to find the pheno, right? And what the genomic studies did was that actually mapped the cannabis genome for the first time. And what that meant was now we can identify
DNA.
Exactly. Well, now we can identify what genetics breed well with other genetics. What used to take somebody 5 years to figure out what would breed good and do all the pheno hunting, you could really break down to a 6-month process.
Wow.
You could run it in a genomics lab. So we're not talking about GMO here. We're talking about selective breeding, but utilizing technology to dial down the length of the process. So within 2 years, I don't know how all those genetics got back into Colorado, but word on the street is we had some really good genetics in our labs.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So the competition that you were once working with, were they?
Well, the competition, I wouldn't call them the competition. The people that I once was trying to figure out who and what they were doing, we were now working with them to bring genetics into the U.S., into Colorado, some of the best genetics on the planet, and start breeding them under these kind of processes. So within a year after that, all of a sudden, we start winning cannabis cups.
Right.
And we didn't stop. So every cannabis cup we entered for 3 years, we won.
Wow.
And we're talking about, this is CBD, this is THC. And in the beginning, we didn't know what CBD was. We didn't know what CBN, any of this stuff. All we knew was we were going for higher THC levels every time. And then all of a sudden you get this lab test and it's like, well, what is all this shit?
Right.
And you're like,
riboflavin.
And you're like, well, we have a lot of that.
High fructose corn syrup.
There's 18% CBD in this. And it's like,
let's taste
it's only
some.
15% THC.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I like it.
Like, throw it out. And it's like, don't throw that out. I don't know what that is.
Right.
Don't throw that genetic out. Keep it.
So it's been such a learning process.
Yeah.
You were in the forefront, man. I think this is what I was talking about when I said that people don't understand all that was done before it came to you being able to walk in a store and buy it. And there's going to be generations that will never know that pain of having to wait around the corner for your guy to bring you your thing.
Or if he's going to text you back.
Those days are, if you're still buying from that guy, you're out of your fucking mind. But like can I cuss on this thing?
Yeah.
Well, so there's the political and regulatory side, right? Which is a big deal, which is really where I do specialize, lobbying and doing all that stuff. So really learning all this stuff.
So you learned how to lobby and kind of working within the
listen,
system.
you could be a good lobbyist, man. You got the gift of gab. Like, it depends on what's driving you to lobby, right? So for the first time in my life, I had a job that really required me to work with government officials.
For sure.
Because they were going to dictate how my livelihood was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So it was better for me if somebody with a business acumen was sitting next to a politician or somebody that's ultimately going to write, these restrictive policies, potentially taxes, everything else. So
again, thanks for the smart stoners.
I mean, that's
what year did you start doing that though? So 2008, 2010.
I started doing that in 2008.
Okay.
2009 is ultimately when the big pushes behind the scenes really started happening. That was when the committee started getting together to create the House bills and the Senate bills to ultimately back to go off of Amendment 20.
Okay.
So, right, in 2000, let's do the timeline. 2000, you have it legalized in Colorado medically, right? But under caregiver circumstances. We now are lobbying for commercialization. So the new House bills and Senate bills, House Bill 1284 and Senate Bill 109, were the first bills that piggybacked off of the 20th Amendment, now opening it up. So creating our own self-regulatory agency, the Marijuana Enforcement Division, through the Department of Revenue. Ultimately, what is the Marijuana Enforcement Division? Well, they're there to collect your fees.
Yeah.
Right. No.
And they're there to make sure you're paying your taxes.
Well, that's the whole
right?
thing,
And
revenue.
And so the Marijuana Enforcement Division is a subdivision of the Department of Revenue. It's not a subdivision of the police force.
Right.
It's a subdivision of the
Let's
Department
get
of
that
Revenue.
money.
Yeah.
Right. No,
so
no,
your
for sure.
fees and everything else
Well,
are going
and that-
straight into state coffers.
And isn't that instrumental in what helped really push it forward? Because they were like, oh my gosh, look at all this money coming in.
Exactly. And so, the idea was in that first, it was, so they opened up for applications. So there was a bunch of stores that opened up 2009 to 2010, like, hundreds of stores. There's some of them want too close to schools. Some of them were,
Right.
it
Some were in
was
schools.
obnoxious how many stores opened up. And so then they said, okay, well, we're going to let you stay open, but you need to apply. And like the cities got together and started, deciding, how far they could be from schools, how far they could be from an arcade.
Did
So
you have to ask the people around you if it's okay if you can move in there?
Exactly. All the stuff, right? And so they put everybody through a full licensing background check regime. About half the people made it through that, but they all had to pay to play.
So
And
they're
so
making money
everybody-
even
so
off
if-
the people that didn't
Well, you
get.
turn in your application, right? So it's like if for each license, it could have been anything from $15,000 to $30,000 to just apply.
Wow.
If you had multiple locations already, your initial application fee could have been like $400,000.
Wow.
Right. So now you're
Which
looking
they
at
were.
and you're looking at the difference between everybody that thought I want to do that to the people that actually committed to doing it.
Well, then it's like who's thinking like I got a criminal record, I'm not going to make it through this.
right.
So then, there was I guess you could call it a consolidation where guys like us were coming in and going, hey, doesn't look like you're going to make it through an application process.
Let me just buy your-
I'll give you, XYZ dollars and all.
Because they already have the equipment and everything.
They've got the locations.
They got the location. Yeah.
Right. So, and there were some guys, especially, there was actually a guy up here, right down the street, actually. It was called, what was it called? The Green Door.
Okay.
This dude was shady at best.
Right.
On a good day, he was
He
shady.
always wore an orange jumpsuit.
Listen, I'll let you guys look up this guy's background, but I think it has something to do with kids and stuff like that.
Oh,
like
okay.
weird
Okay.
stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But this guy opened up the biggest doctor's clinic in Thornton, and he had that doctor working there, and he was running up
Wow.
tons of patients. What does that mean?
Wow.
Customers. This
Right.
guy had 50,000 of the 130,000 customers that were here in Colorado. People call them patients. We call them customers.
Yeah.
Because if that can make them loyal to me, I can immediately start marketing to those people.
So how did he get
Because he had the
monopolize?
doctor.
Oh, okay.
He had the doctor's clinic, and this guy had already opened up like 7 dispensaries, but he couldn't get any of them through licensing.
Oh, wow.
And there were a couple guys like that.
Okay.
And so all of a sudden, you had these prime locations that you knew were going to make it through the licensing regime, but they had characters behind them that weren't.
Right.
So you had great spots.
So you weed out the bad people.
So you had to go sit in some weird ass dining rooms is what you had to do with some people that you probably don't enjoy sharing the same oxygen with.
Yeah.
Right.
To make a deal. And it's like, yeah, I mean, business makes strange bedfellows sometimes.
So then what was next for you?
On that, on the business side of the, then it was the licensing, taking it through the Marijuana Enforcement Division. Ultimately, at that point, though, making sure that we had the political connections.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. At this point, you're pretty deep. If you're surviving and you're buying these other guys,
At that point, I was taking a deep dive. I wouldn't say I was deep. Like
Yeah.
I was still pretty new. And then within a year, they had made me the chairman of the organization.
Wow.
And I was like 30 years old.
yeah.
And I was like,
you're just like,
I'm
what
like,
the
I'm
heck
the
am I
chairman.
doing?
They're like, who knows the most about this? And they all pointed at you.
I'm like-
He'll do it.
I'm like,
Does that come with a check?
Yeah. And well, and then we did a deal with Josh. We had to do with Josh Stanley for our downtown store, and he had this other guy, this guy Kevin, that was his partner. So this is the Stanley brothers, and we got a real good deal on that store. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement as to how we got that deal. But
well, it wasn't that was the day. I mean, that was the day and age where it was like the gold rush, and now it's kind of like plateaued. I mean, it's kind of like, are there, in your opinion, still too many dispensaries? Is there enough dispensaries? Not enough?
In Colorado, I think that there's enough dispensaries. I think your biggest issue is 280E. So a lot of these dispensaries are getting squeezed, right? They should be making a lot more money. The taxes are ridiculous on the product. The margins aren't there, and the taxes wouldn't be terrible if the federal government's taxes were fair. And so what I mean by that is, in business, in this kind of a business, you'd want to be an S corp. You'd want to be probably an LLC. You don't want to be a C corp per se, because you're getting double taxed on that, and we can go into all the details of how that works.
That's the next episode, kids.
Yeah, exactly. But what happened is the federal government under 280E will not allow normal business deductions for anything related to cannabis. And where they see the illegal portion of the transaction occurring is in the dispensary. So a lot of the stuff in your grows can be written off, but all the upfront costs, i.e., your staff, your marketing, your actual paying for your floor space, all that stuff is non-deductible.
Are there federal taxes too? So these guys, they're regulating this, and then they're making money.
So here's like the ultimate hypocrisy around the industry in Colorado and in the country now. Colorado is very supportive. The politicians here are very supportive. Matter of fact, you can't get elected and come out against marijuana in this state. I would argue that. Federally, though, the IRS and the legislators up on the federal level have not decriminalized it yet. They haven't legalized it yet.
Because they're not making money off of it yet.
On a federal level, there's a lot of reasons why they haven't done that. I'm not, and I certainly don't agree with them. But the issue for the business owners is 280E affects that. So where you're getting squeezed, right? To a certain extent, the sales tax stuff is supposed to push off onto the customer, and it's supposed to push off, on the sales tax side. But essentially, the dispensary is just like any other business, like this business. You're holding the state's and the city's money when you collect those taxes, right? Okay. When you collect retail tax. But it makes the price go up. So medical marijuana is cheaper in the state than recreational marijuana because it has the extra taxes, like 35%. So the price is already going up. Business owners are competing, so they're going to eat some of that just to stay in business.
Sure.
Which sucks.
Right.
Shouldn't have to be that way. Because, though, on the back end, those same business owners, when they file their individual taxes, they're getting hammered on 280E. So the businesses themselves cannot take those deductions. And so I don't know how some of these guys stay in business.
Well, and then there's that, and then on top of like Arizona, all these other places legalizing it, they're saying that the sales overall are just not what they used to be because people are like
people aren't going there anymore.
People aren't going here anymore.
Right, and then isn't there a thing where it's like because Canada can publicly trade marijuana, they've kind of bought in. They bought all the
We're going so
dispensaries.
Deep. Hold on.
That's nuts. I mean, that's a really good. I mean, that is an amazing segue, Larry. The issue, and I'll touch on this for 1 minute, is the United States essentially handed the Canadians the legal marijuana industry in the United States.
Wow.
The Canadian Stock Exchange owns the majority of the American assets. By not legalizing it, we handed it to them. Now we can take it back,
if we legalize.
If we legalize, because exactly. I think a lot of people would rather be on a U.S. stock exchange.
Because last time I went to Canada, I could never find it. And no, I mean, I was in Canada one time for Christmas, and I was just looking anywhere. I was going down dark alleys. Somebody was like, "Go down those stairs," and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, well, I'm just
never found it.
You're not wrong. And so by not legalizing here, the Canadians came in and they bought guys like me out, right? Or people that were essentially, I guess you could call them straw people for the Canadian companies came in, and as long as you had real estate based assets, which a lot of these companies do. Yeah, because that's also another way to.
So Canada came in and was like, "So you want a house by a lake, huh?"
I already had that.
Okay. Is that what happened there? So did you eventually sell MMJ? Did you get to such a level where you're just like, okay, I want to get out of this because of all of this that's going on?
I did. It was taxation to me in my brain, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Yeah.
It seemed like taxation without representation. And, in business, the margins getting just destroyed, right? So it all sounds great. And there was a point where people were doing very well.
Yeah.
Those days are over.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like the ones that got in and sold early, killed it.
Yeah. And then, if you're a person or a group that owns one or two very popular dispensaries that do a lot of traffic,
You can do well.
You're probably doing really good, right? Some of these guys that have multiple locations, what are you talking about with multiple locations?
So many employees, so many
employee issues,
building rent,
untaxed, exactly. Not building rent, you probably own it.
Right.
So a lot of these guys, what they'll do is buy the building and then lease it back to themselves at like a ridiculous rate. And they'll extract their profits through passive income.
Oh, okay.
That's a whole other episode.
That's like
episode 3,
That's like
kids.
McDonald's. That's like what that guy at McDonald's
Dude,
did.
it's exactly
yeah,
right.
That's exactly what. Yeah,
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah,
right.
wow.
So you can own the real estate for cheaper. It's a real estate play.
Would you recommend, let's say somebody is like, I'm going to open one today. I'm going to open a dispensary today. Would you recommend somebody go into
In
that
this
business?
state?
Not in Colorado.
I mean, do you like your money in your bank account, or do you like it in other people's
Right.
bank
Yeah.
accounts?
So in other words, that's almost like akin to, I'm going to open up a coffee shop by Starbucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I feel, and I have some really good friends that didn't get out and are still in, and they have really amazing brands that they've created. Some of these guys around their companies and around their products. I think they've done a phenomenal job. Some of these guys, and it's just tough to make a buck. They're lucky if they're breaking even and paying. Paying
So you
their
got out at
mortgages.
the right time.
Yeah, man. I'm really glad. Like during COVID, it kind of exploded, and I kind of all of a sudden people started making money again, and I was like, damn, did I miss it?
Right.
And then right when COVID was over, everybody was like, it sucks again, and I was like, all right, good, I didn't miss anything.
That was so funny,
It was
though.
doing this and it did this, and then it went.
Well, they remember the mayor or whoever came on and said we're going to close all liquor stores and dispensaries, and then like within
People
minutes
revolted.
there was like a line. Out
No!
Right. Are you insane? Yeah. So
So you get out, and then what'd you do then?
Well, so I mean, we still had our spot in Vegas, and then we had done a joint partnership with this company TriGrow, which was creating these really neat proprietary indoor cultivation systems to really dial down on the amount of energy use, up the quality, and be able to put out a more consistent product instead of kind of the old HPS lights and
a million air conditioners. That's the kind of standard.
exactly right. And so to ultimately kind of lower your cost of business, lower your COGS, and be able to put out a more quality product. So we had gotten involved in that, and that company now is it's actually got bought out by another company that's now taking it global, which is really neat. Because that was really the side that always really interested me. I never wanted to be on the retail side.
Right.
I had zero want or interest to be on that side. I really wanted to be
grow.
known as being a good grower, and that was like that's. So
But if you grow, you got to sell it.
right. So I had guys to kind of run the dispensaries, right?
Yeah.
I had people to do that.
Yeah.
I liked spending my time working on the cultivation
and the business, I'm sure, and the politics.
well, and then the expansion of the brand and
Yeah.
all that stuff, the politics. Yeah. So like you had one job to run your company during the day, and at night, it's like I'd show up. I couldn't dress like this, which is normally how I dress when I'd go to work. And I'd have a t-shirt on and jeans, and then I had a shower in the office. So I would after work I would throw on something like this, and I would go be handing out checks at political events.
Wow.
Right. And now you're a member of the
Colorado Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
Yeah. So I accepted was nominated for the board in 2017, and
And you were out of the business at that point, or you got out?
I was getting out
You
at
were
that
getting
point.
out,
Yeah.
okay.
I got out in late 2017.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, end of summer.
So is this good timing?
Yeah, no, it was great. I wanted to get out. I really wanted to get into the CBD side of things because but yeah, I really dipping into the political side of things really opened up my eyes to the more philanthropic aspects of kind of on that side of it, what Denver ultimately should be and could be. And a really good friend of mine named Mike Ferrafino, who's the CEO of the Hispanic Chamber, give that guy your ear for like a second and he'll have it for 3 hours because, he's just the heart on that guy is like a heart of gold.
That's like you, man. I'm telling you, that is just like you. You're describing yourself because when we've discussed things and a lot of different business things, you've always said that, I don't need to be making a dime to invest in somebody's thing. Like you freely give advice. You're looking out for fellow, people in this business and fellow Hispanics, small business owners,
and white guys. He was giving me some help too.
I don't discriminate.
It's not high. It's
I like good people, man.
No, for sure. But great vibe. And so, keep going about that guy though.
No. Mike, just taught me so much more about how much more you could kind of give, and it really, putting me on the board, opening up my, I guess you could call it my contacts to that kind of organization was neat. And, I kind of just, I started spending an awful lot of time raising money and doing it at which I should say an awful lot of time, probably about, 1/10 of my time on doing that. And it was like, oh man, I come home and I'd feel so much better about everything I had done that day. And then, turns out that I had raised a lot, more than I think everybody on the board except for Mike.
Oh, nice.
and they were like, hey, do you want to be, the chairman of the finance committee? And I was like, well, I'm not a CPA, man. They're like, dude, you don't need to be CPA, just be good at raising money. I was like, okay,
that's what they need.
I guess I'm your guy.
Your personality, being creative and energy, everything that they lacked.
Yeah,
probably.
Well, no, I wouldn't.
No. I'm just saying that when people value you for something like that, it's usually hard to find. It's not that
the organization lacked it. I think ultimately, what Mike was trying to with his under his leadership, I think what he was really trying to do was bring in a younger generation, right? Kind of get out of the old school ways of dissecting business in Denver, not just for the Hispanic community, but for the business community and the community in general. Because as we progressed from 17, especially going through COVID, we got a lot more involved in community functions. We don't take positions on politicians, but we do take large positions on policy. So really what it forced me to do was not just reading marijuana policies, which is what I was good at, is actually reading the actual policies as it relates to gerrymandering, as it relates to, clean water, how the city,
the school funding for lunches.
Exactly. So all that. Yeah. So we take positions on all that stuff. And whether
because some people take things for granted and think it'll always be there.
Exactly. And so it really forced me to have to read that. And then as I got put on the finance committee, then I got put on legislative committees. And, so then it was like, okay, now not only am I going to have to read this stuff, I have to read it because I'm going to have to go sit in a politician's office and discuss the chamber's position on their specific legislation.
You're all, damn, why did I say yes to this?
No, it's fascinating, man. The stuff that when you really sit down and read what these people are doing or not doing.
Right.
And I'm not
here. Is that true when people say they're slipping something into the bill? I mean,
it's not just that it's getting slipped in. Sometimes it's like right. Bad things happen when good people fail to take action.
For sure.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And so, that I think really holds true in today's world when good people aren't there to keep people in line.
For sure, you can see all the politicians, like they say, like a large percentage of them are millionaires because that's what they do. That's why they got in this.
Well, some of that is true. Some of them obviously stand for nothing but re-election. I'm pretty sure we could sit here and name a few. But
sure.
the crux of being able to understand the policy and stuff like that and take position is you really have to be able to hold these people accountable. And it's not just what they're saying. Sometimes it's what they're not saying, right? It's the position that they refuse to take. It's the person that they won't speak out against because what they are saying is vile. And when a party won't, get on somebody for saying and doing some certain types of things, it's the silence that can be deafening as well on certain things. And that reflects through into policy as well. So, right, the vile stuff, I call it the manja, right? Every day, the shit that gets thrown at us from the news, right? Mm-hmm. If you're watching MSNBC or Fox or whatever it is.
It's never ending. It's more outrageous the next day.
That's the manja bullshit, right? This person wouldn't denounce this shit, and this person probably
let this person back.
This person kept saying this, and a bunch of people got shot, right? It's probably true because it's terrible.
Right.
But it's also what they're not saying to those people and what they're not putting into their policies.
For sure.
And when you really start reading it and you understand it, and the more you read it, the more you understand it. Yeah, that is where it gets fascinating, and that's where I feel like certain people need to start getting involved and start drawing lines and really understanding what's going on. Where's the money actually being spent? A lot of people, the politicians aren't spending in the right places. Well, which ones? Why?
Is that your role then? Is to try to just educate people?
Yeah, it's not just educate. It's understanding the positions. And then, coming up with our own positions. And so, like, if we're going to endorse a policy, then we have to, as a group, vote on that. So we have to dissect it and
positions.
Hey, listen, I negotiate that stuff too with my wife.
Right. Talk to my agent. Now you've basically come to a point where you're doing something totally different with HipShots.
Yeah.
But it's got a CBD element.
So yeah, HipShots, Solari Brands, which is our company, originally started as a CBD brand. And so we had our own farms here in Colorado where we were.
Is this 2017 time period?
2018, 2019.
So you're done at this point with MMJ America,
yep. Mm-hmm.
And then you're getting into this space, but you're still working with Hispanic Chambers of Commerce.
Yeah, never stopped doing that.
So you're doing that, and then Solaris, okay.
Yeah. Never stopped doing the Hispanic Chamber stuff. And as a matter of fact, I'm still not done doing that.
Right.
But yeah, on the Solari side of it, we partnered with Colin Gallagher here in Colorado. Great guy, great family. They own all the smoker friendly chains. I grew up with them in Boulder. I've known that family my whole life. And we decided, we got into the farming portion of it. And then we created our own product lines. And then we were really lucky to have one of the largest distributors in the United States buy part of our company very quietly in 2020. So Cormark, which distributes to about half of the convenience stores in the country.
Right. So did you come up with, because, there's obviously an energy drink market.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like massively owned by one brand.
Yeah.
And so you probably saw there's probably a benefit for having some competition, but having a better product.
Well, and it's an interesting segue there. We don't really look at ourselves as, I think you're trying to say 5 Hour Energy.
Right.
We don't compete with 5 Hour Energy.
Okay.
What we want to do is expand the category, and we are a herbal elixir, right? So our ingredients obviously are much different than 5 Hour Energy, is a lot healthier. And what we noticed in the convenience sector was that CBD is not selling well in convenience stores. It sells okay in grocery stores, not great. It sells really good online.
It's kind of like when you guys ran it and no one knew what CBD
right.
was.
Yeah,
now
for
the
sure.
consumers in that same kind of mind frame.
You had 2%. It's like everybody that smokes weed and everything knows CBD, right? And those are people that we hang out with.
Right.
The general public has no idea what half this shit does.
Not yet. And I think that
it's gonna happen.
Yeah. I'm always picturing that when there's it's legal all over, that you'll eventually see a commercial that's all Tylenol now with THC.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
You're probably not wrong,
right?
And hopefully that happens sooner than later,
right?
Because people the endocannabinoid system, and we can get into all that in another episode. But
that's episode 4, kids.
Yeah, exactly. I think we just rambled off 10 episodes.
Pretty much.
But the idea behind that was we saw that CBD was not selling great in convenience. We had a great convenience channel. We had a great line to grocery. And what they are looking for in convenience stores is healthier options.
Yeah.
Right? And because
it's so bad.
Right. And on every level.
Everything's terrible, right? Anything from a sodium level to a sugar level, anything you walk in and buy in a convenience store traditionally.
Right. Especially if you're watching you're on a cleanse program or whatever, and you go in there and you're like, nope, can't have that. Nope.
Yeah.
I guess I'll get a bottle of water. Right.
I mean, maybe a cigarette, because technically.
Do they still make those?
I mean, technically, it's not against keto.
Right, exactly. They just need to add some Cool Ranch,
exactly.
Pizza flavored cigarettes.
Just dip that.
God.
We gotta do that.
Salsa verde.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's just and what does that do, right? That really, guys are traditionally not as good as reading packages as women are,
right?
And reading ingredients. Women traditionally don't shop a whole lot in convenience stores. So there's a big push around making these you'll see in Buc-ee's, some of these big national, they're bigger, shopping experience, a better shopping experience. There's people in there actually to help you with your shopping experience.
There's a new one right on
Maverick,
Central Park and I-70.
It's
a big gas station. They got like 20 flavors of Slurpees.
See,
they have a kitchen in there. They're like, can I help you?
There's a big push towards like the customer experience in these stores, and there's a big push for different products.
By the way,
food.
FYI sidetrack. I buy a ton of bagged ice. Just because I like that consistency, restaurant consistency. So the ice industry, like everybody else, increased their prices, but their bags got smaller. So now at King Soopers, it's a 7-pound bag for the same price and a 16-pound bag for the same price. Well, at that gas station I was telling you, on the side, they have a thing where you can buy bags of ice. The 10-pound bag is $1. The 20-pound bag is $2, and it just puts it in a little machine, and you just get it and go. That's all I wanted to say.
You're an ice nut.
I know, but you talk about.
I throw a lot of parties there in the summertime, as you guys know. So
there you go.
Where's that place at?
It's right on I-70 and Central Park Boulevard.
I'm going there for my eyes.
Yeah, there you go. No, but go ahead.
But no, I mean, there's just a big push for the more healthier products, and what does that mean? That means that certain stuff that's in a lot of the products that are in those stores really caters mostly to men. Red Bull, 5-Hour Energy. They don't have a huge following for women and millennials. Millennials don't do it. And so when we created HipShots, we knew we didn't want to put CBD in it, but we had the labs and everything there to really create a neat product. Well, we also wanted to expand the category to sleep because nobody sells anything that puts people to sleep.
No, and if they do,
keeping them awake.
No, for sure. And sleep
is just as important as being awake.
It's even more important because people are stressed out. Anytime I post on social, who can't sleep? It's the majority of people getting like 4 hours, a little bit here and there. So when you said you had that sleep elixir, I was like, oh my God,
bro, the sleep elixir is where it's at, man. Like I'm telling you, like people, like we take the energy out. People like obviously have B12, Kana, which is something that's not sold in the United States a lot, from South Africa. That is really an amazing product. It's been around for centuries. People have been using it for a long time. It's just not very popular in the United States yet, but it's more searched on a Google search than 5-Hour Energy.
Oh, wow.
Which is why we did a big call out right there on the package. So the people that know are going to buy it, right? You're going to drink that energy drink and not feel bad later that you drank it, right?
And so do they put both of them together?
We do, man. We do.
Because sometimes you're going to need energy and sometimes you need some sleep.
But we want to make sure that we put the call outs for the ingredients. So we call out the valerian root, right? The melatonin. But what you're not seeing on that call out is 5-HTP and GABA, also in the sleep. The way that these ingredients mix with each other is what ultimately relaxes you and then knocks you out. Wow. And it's also the ingredients that don't make you feel groggy in the morning.
Right, because I know that like whoever makes NyQuil now has like the sleep version, and that is the worst hangover, groggy.
Oh yeah,
and it's
like a coma, man.
Right, for sure. So that was really
coming out of a NyQuil coma, man. Like, hey, I've been sick for 3 days.
Well, and
what happened? What's in the news?
Well, and then I'm like, you make a sleep, and you didn't change the flavor. You still got that blue crap, whatever that is.
Oh yeah, terrible.
But no. So now you guys are in all Circle K's.
We're in all Circle K's in Colorado, New Mexico, all the way down through Texas.
Wow.
We're in Jackson's. We just got into Love's, Casey's, and throughout the Midwest, another 2,400 stores there. We'll finish the year over, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 stores. Wow. We officially launched HipShots in late spring. And we did it very quietly, as you know. I mean, we didn't even have a website up yet. Yeah. But we had a neat showing with Circle K, and Circle K jumped right on it because they're like, we're looking for healthier options. If this will be a good filler, great. And the way that we price it and stuff, obviously on the business side,
you have great timing. You did have good timing with the way things.
Well, I honestly can't take credit for HipShots. I have to give the credit. Colin, obviously, great business partner, but we've got some great investors, and one in particular that really stepped up to help us during COVID, right? Because COVID was a tough time. We were trying to launch CBD, which is a new idea, into a new product line, into mass market retail when mass market retail was shut down.
Oh yeah,
for a year. That was bad timing, by the way. So for every cool idea, I have about 10 that did not work out so well, right?
It looks great now.
Yeah. Okay. It's the one good one that saves the 10 bad ones, right?
Right.
And so, Scott Varner was the former president of sales for Jewel, believe it or not. Had all the convenience connections, grocery, everything else.
Oh, right.
And he really brought the idea of HipShots to the forefront. Now, we didn't know what we were going to call it, but the idea of bringing that, and I also have to give some props out to EHP, our production partners. They did a great job. That's Elite Health Partners. We've been working with them for almost 4 years now. Great guys over there.
Now, so what's is the end game with that, like just being the owner of HipShots and running HipShots, or is it like, okay, now all of a sudden Red Bull's like, hey, we'll buy your little HipShots thing for X amount of dollars?
Well, I mean,
is it like that?
Listen, we're always looking for a good exit strategy. Why is Red Bull looking?
After this podcast, we get 10%.
No. I'm thinking we do
is this a broker's fee we're working on right now?
I'm thinking we do a YOLO Rum HipShots collaboration.
Let's do this, man. Well, so yeah, we are coming out with new flavors. There's going to be some new packaging. We really wanted to make sure the concept would fly.
Right.
Now we can really put some big dollars behind it. Get it national. We're doing some big pushes in the stores, as you guys know. All that costs money.
Yeah, and your marketing looks good. The video's looking really high quality.
So far, it's got to give props to the guys over at Hive, over at Shump Automotive.
Sure.
They're phenomenal. They've been a big help over there. James, George, Lindsay, the whole crew. Obviously, not leaving anybody's names out, but they've all been fantastic to work with. And they're like a separate entity to the Shump Automotive kind of conglomerate, right? That they broke off to do all their own marketing. And the Hive is, it's going to be an up-and-coming agency here in Denver. Not a lot of people know about it, but they're doing some pretty cool projects.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, since you're on the board, maybe you could help a fellow Hispanic open a bar where I can serve YOLO and smoke weed someday. Maybe we'll partner.
Knowing Jake, he probably can make
that
happen.
Let's figure it out, bro.
You just got to go rub some elbows with the politicians.
Just come and hang out with me for a minute.
Anything that we can do to help any of your causes, though, for real, though, anything that you need, like a host, or you need a message amplified, and I'm from Denver.
You just need me to drink the energy drink.
Right.
Let me tell you guys something, like, for real, and I do appreciate it. Like, honestly, it's been like I said, what's really nice for me, especially, obviously I grew up listening to you, but getting to meet Jared here, what I saw, man, is like he's a very driven guy, right? But also, he's, like you said, he's got the gift of gab. You're out there, I'm always happy to support it, especially, what it takes for a young entrepreneur, business person to ultimately ask for help and to decidedly be open-minded enough to ask somebody to help them, right? Somebody like me. So that's it's like a big step in therapy for most business guys, right? They're not, or women. They don't, a lot of these people are very close-minded. As hard as being an entrepreneur is, some people, they shut themselves off, which is why, 50% of businesses fail. It's hard to reach out. So
or they surround themselves with people that tell them yes
exactly,
about everything.
which is exactly what you don't want, right? You want to put people around you.
No,
that have
Wiggins.
More experience. And that was really what stood out about Wiggins to me, was ultimately the idea of him, just reaching out and being like, hey man, like, let me show you this. Let me show you where I'm at with this project. Here, dude, let me tell you, don't ever lose that. Right? The second you start thinking you know everything is the second you're going to ruin your business career. So keep that attitude, bro, because
shoot, man, coming from you, that means a lot.
I'm telling you, man, that's the only way to be.
Yeah. Well, shoot, I literally just got off the plane. It was like, I'll be there in 30 minutes.
This guy's been running ragged the last couple of weeks, holding up his business. And, so it was like when, we worked together at the radio, and I knew that he was doing this. I'm from Denver, and I just saw how overwhelmed he was. So when I got here and we started working together again, I just started doing what I could, whatever you need me to do, bro.
Oh, you've been killing it.
Yeah, we've just been working on clients.
It's like we've been doing back in the day.
For sure. We kind of have a chemistry when you work with somebody for a while, and then you guys can just build off ideas. It's like working with you. It's just a very fun, creative process. That's probably the best part about what we do.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I caught the vibe right away, man. But like, yeah, dude. Well, believe me, the running ragged part.
Never
Get used to
stops.
that.
Yeah, that never stops. Oh shoot, I want to go rub elbows with politicians. I'm like, let's go. No,
That means you're gonna run ragged, bro.
Well,
that means you're gonna do this, and then we're gonna go do something else later.
You've accomplished so much that you even saying those things are like, I just am very appreciative of it.
Oh man, it's awesome.
And I do, to Larry's point, it's like, I want this to work. Like, here's the thing for me is like, when we were hanging out at Larry's house and I was like, you guys should do a podcast together, and you were like, haha, and you were like, haha. I was like, no, I was like, Hi as Larry really needs your knowledge and expertise on the matter brings some knowledge to his humor and his experience and just love of cannabis, that it really is a symbiotic like podcast to where it's like you can educate people, because I think that's what we, even with E3 and who does HVAC units and all that for the dispensaries, it's like there's such a business there that people don't know about.
Plus, I think this relationship lends itself to like help those other causes that you're in, get behind, so in other words, you're doing all this other projects that have nothing to do with your business that could need light shine them, or you need like a host, like I said, or you
something
need,
on Denver. Just
for
put on
sure.
on Denver.
Right. So
For
I mean,
sure.
I think that there's that aspect of this relationship that would really help everybody, and because it gives the podcast a heart, and it gives us we're able to show people that we're not just having fun conversations, but we can actually do some stuff too.
Yeah.
And connected to politicians.
Listen, we can
Right.
take a deep dive anytime you guys want.
Well,
Any of the 100 things
I
we
think
just
we
talked
did
about.
that.
That's episode 5.
Exactly. I think we need to
Besides,
wrap
if
it.
I can hang out in this store a little
no,
more,
for sure.
We're at Out the Box. We literally covered everything, but I think next time we gotta have you come. There is
Yeah,
next time.
let's do
There's
it.
multiple times you come in here.
Right. This
We're
is the setup, and you had to get your backstory
Yeah.
and get everybody familiar. But I mean, this will be a podcast where we talk about Elon Musk for 5 seconds or whatever, So it's like, and how it applies, how things apply to Colorado and how things apply to the weed industry. But sometimes we're not going to even probably scratch on the industry. We'll be too busy talking about toys or whatever. But we just want to have fun, and it was good to get you on this episode and get everybody to know who you are. And again, thank you for all the work you did for everybody that kind of takes it for granted.
No, you're good, man. All
Well,
good.
and go get
Happy to
HipShots
do
at any Circle K, right? In Colorado. they're all
HipShots at
adults.
Circle K,
Yeah, try it out
Solari CBD products online,
Yeah.
You will become
or
like,
Caesar's Palace, any of the Caesar's proproperties.
Let's go. We already said we're going to Vegas.
no.
right?
We're already planning.
We're going to
vacations.
Vegas,
Yeah.
Miami.
Orlando.
We got a lot going on in this podcast.
Well,
People are probably like, "What is wrong with these guys?"
Were we saving when we started that?
The other thing
This
that
whole time?
ended up, and this happens to us all the time. It's like we end up meeting people, this, that, the other, and then you ended up already being a fan of YOLO rum, and so that's another like thing and connection that we have when people really appreciate the rum and they know that it's not just a regular rum. And so
That's another podcast.
Yeah,
we got
that's number 6.
Jake, thank you, man, for being down in here and coming down, checking out the
You got
box.
it.
I know you're gonna go look around and probably get some your
Christmas
childhood
presents.
toys. Yeah,
Get
Christmas
some
presents.
Ninja Turtles here.
And then and I don't
For
know.
me.
I think this was honestly, it was kind of a I'm from Denver and a Hi as Larry. Obviously,
Sure.
you're gonna have
Hybrid.
your own podcast, and I'm from Denver is gonna be its own thing. But it was great just to have Jake in here, because I think, dude, no matter what, he's gonna be part
Yeah,
of
100%.
anything and everything that
you
we're
guys
doing.
need me here, I'll be here, man.
Congratulations on your success, man, for real.
Appreciate you guys too.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh,
it's all
that's
good.
yeah.
The lid was on.